journos back outside the Newcastle United Media Centre in Jordan Cronin's car.
Yeah.
Bit of a story behind your car this morning, Jordan, if you want to divulge.
Yes, I didn't make the press conference this morning. So, like you guys, I've been watching via NUFC TV, I think it's called these days, the club's online stream. It was a bit of a disaster. There was a breakdown in the Tyne Tunnel. I then tried to be clever and go through over the Tyne Bridge, which was equally as busy.
Silly.
So, yes, but to be fair, I did only miss it by about, I think you texted Seed walking about 7 minutes past 9, and I got here about 15:15. So, if I had just been a little bit more late, then I would have made it. But I felt a bit rude walking in at the back of the room late. So, I watched on the stream, and I do know what he said. So I am talking here. I'm not just winging this. I do wing videos, but I do know what he said, so I can give a little bit of context. I'll try to give a little bit of context of what he's been saying to you and the rest of the guys in the media room this morning.
Classy from you, not barging in on the press conference. I know a few journalists who would and have already previously just walked in whenever. So
I don't have it as I get too embarrassed. I get too red faced at the back of the room if someone looks and Eddie clocks eyes and he's. I'd imagine Eddie
Howe's evils.
I'd imagine he's a very punctual man. So
7 minutes past the press conference. Come on, Eddie.
True. But
it was nearly a boost for you, but not quite. So as you can tell, there wasn't actually much to talk about in Eddie Howe's press conference.
There's not a lot there, is there?
Wimbledon tomorrow, St James's Park rescheduled game. Newcastle squad go into the game in a much better place. That's one thing. But in terms of injuries, we can start. No Alexander Isak. Kieran Trippier, Sandro Tonali, doubtful.
Yeah. After
going off with suspected cramp against Man City. The big one, my question, no Matt Targett.
Yeah, I was pulling together and he predicted 11 last night to have a rough idea what I think the team might be, and I did pencil in Matt Targett at left back. So now there's no Matt Targett. I think there will be players that have to play who played on
Kelly,
Saturday.
Potentially.
But I had him in at centre half.
Yeah.
I think Dan Burn might have to.
Emil Kraft, Tino, I don't know.
Yeah,
you mix it up.
Yeah, I thought my Target would play because of obviously his first appearance in 12 months. But I think he said he wasn't ready because he only returned to train on Friday.
Yeah.
So a bad. I mean, you asked him in depth about Matt Target and the sort of the struggles he's had the last 12 months. He was quite opening up on Matt Target's sort of struggles, not like sort of mentally as well.
Yeah, it's a question I've wanted to ask for a while, but there's just never been the time
because Matt Target doesn't stop.
Matt Target isn't exactly no disrespect. He's not on everyone's lips.
No, he's a forgotten man.
Yeah, a forgotten man. And I thought Carabao Cup. This is a game. Eddie Howe spoke about him last week, so I'll follow that up. But in terms of Alexander Isak, Eddie Howe still wouldn't commit to saying he definitely wouldn't play against Everton. Yeah. Another sort of late call being made, but still you'd suspect they'd give him the international break to recover and he'll be back after that. And then he also mentioned Callum Wilson, Lewis Miley back after that as well. But when specifically, we'll wait and see. But Wimbledon tomorrow poses an interesting test for Newcastle. Good that it's at home. Eddie Howe did hint that he'd make changes.
Yeah.
Would like to see potentially Willa Osula, but Eddie Howe didn't go that hard on Willa Osula. He went quite hard on Miguel Almiron, saying he would potentially get a chance because he hasn't started in the Premier League. He started in the game against Nottingham Forest. I thought he actually played quite well in that game.
Off, he's really good.
And he didn't get on the pitch on Saturday against Man City, so that's a chance for him. But Will Osula's an interesting one because brought in as a third choice striker, what you thought, and then Eddie Howe's publicly basically said, no, Anthony Gordon's the third choice striker. Anthony Gordon, again, when he was asked about Will Osula, name-checked Anthony Gordon. Eddie Howe, he went, Anthony did a great job against Man City, which he did, undoubtedly, but Will Osula, 21 years old, he's actually got a really good record in the cup competitions.
He does. I think it was a brace. There's not 2 goals apart in both competitions, Carabao Cup.
I think
FA Cup.
I was just looking. I think he's got something like 7 goals in 6 goals in 7 games in the cups, in the Carabao and FA Cup between them. So
got to start. It's got to start.
I think, but this is prime opportunity. You don't want to disrespect Wimbledon. Eddie Howe's going to be able to name a strong team capable of beating Wimbledon regardless, unless he starts naming just tons of kids, which he's not going to do. He said he'll name a strong side. Plenty of changes from Man City, obviously. Some forced potentially with Sandro Tonali and Kieran Trippier. But Willa Osula starting shouldn't really pose Newcastle any problems. Newcastle should still be confident of winning regardless. He's a £15 million man at the end of the day. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, has an opportunity in the Premier League. I think it's clear that sort of biding the time with him, where £15 million almost like an opportunist sort of deal, where you can see the attributes he's got. He's got really good raw attributes. I've seen that against Stade Brest when he played in the Cella Cup in the first half. He was making runs in behind. A tall lad, very quick for his height. And a very similar stature to sort of probably Isak in many ways as well. As I say, good height. Looked like he was decent with his feet as well, but obviously he still has a lot of room, or has a lot to learn and has a lot to develop. And I think that's why we probably haven't seen much of him. Obviously, I think Eddie Howe mentioned in the press comments there that they are putting a lot of work in aside for Willa Osula to try and obviously develop him. But above all that, if you can't play him against a League Two club,
when can you play?
When can you play him? And I think, has Eddie Howe's hand been forced? Because you'd probably look at it in the Callum Wilson fit, you play Callum Wilson. You then had Anthony Gordon, who just ran his bum off for 90 minutes against Manchester City. Obviously, even with, like you mentioned there, Trippier and Tonali, there's players going down with cramp. That game on Saturday took a lot out of them. So I'd be surprised if he went and put Anthony Gordon back in. I think Anthony Gordon probably deserves a rest, or at least a start on the bench to recover from that Manchester City game. And he won't be the only one. That's why I think if Eddie Howe can change a position, he will. But I think, as I say, with all the injuries, obviously there's still players out injured. There will be positions that I think he can't change, and he will have to play players from the weekend, unless he wants to call up some of the other youngsters. So you mentioned like sort of Willa Osula, but below them could we see a Trevor Sanusi? I don't think so. I'm doubtful of that, but possibly he could be involved in the squad. So I say two of the positions I was looking at yesterday were when I had sort of question marks next. It was one in centre mid and there was one on the left hand side. So we'll wait and see anyway. But if Willa Osula can't play on Tuesday, then
when you've got no other fit, recognised natural strikers, I think it would send out a strange message from Eddie Howe for a player who, look, is a project player. There's probably comparisons a little bit between him and Lewis Hall this stage last year, where he's brought in and you're like, why is he not playing, or why is he not getting any minutes? Like, what's happening with him? And it's clear that Eddie Howe and his coaching staff are working quite a lot with Will Osula behind the scenes on the training ground. They like his attitude, and hopefully he'll improve and become a Premier League standard player for Newcastle United. Because at the moment he's still very young, very raw, and we've seen a bit of that.
Was he asked? I think was he asked by Craig Hope about how close is he to becoming a Premier League ready player? Do you remember his answer to that? It came to my head then. I don't remember what he actually said.
He went back to the training and preparing, things like that. But another question before that was about Alexander Isak, and we talked about managing injuries Newcastle this season, and Eddie Howe completely played this down, to be fair. Was playing Isak at Fulham like a mistake, and Eddie Howe basically said, well, no, because he felt fine for 80 minutes. The injection got him through the majority of the game. It was just those final 10 minutes, and then now it's like, not as a precaution because he's broke his toe, but they're being cautious. But Eddie Howe's always going to defend his decision, particularly on the back of the season Newcastle had last year.
I think there's definitely more accountability than just Eddie Howe making the decision, though. I think obviously with James Bunce coming in, I do think a lot of the injuries and return dates, whatever, are largely, well, it's in collaboration with James Bunce, and obviously you've got more than one person there. Same Alexander Isak was fit to play against Fulham. You mentioned about tolerating the pain in for 80 minutes against Fulham. He was able to tolerate the pain, but then since then it's felt like he can't. So it's a player. It's a mental thing as well with a player. If you're not quite there, if you're thinking about your toe, which is Alexander Isak's injury, and he's feeling the pain, it does affect you. It might seem like a little issue to us. You've played with a broken toe before, Dom, at the Walker Dome. But of course, people are very different, and the Walker Dome compared to the Premier League is very, very different in level. So, yeah, I sort of see it from Isak's point of view. If it doesn't feel right, then it's not worth really risking him. If he is to sit out until after the international break, which is what I was told initially last week, then it's not a bad thing. Say in 2 weeks, hopefully he's managed to deal with the pain in 2 weeks, or they're finding ways around it, and then yeah, you can get him back fit and firing. He's never going to play today. He's never going to play against Wimbledon, regardless if he was fit, was he?
Probably not. No.
Unless I don't know. Yeah, probably Willa Osula. This is probably always the game for Willa Osula, you know.
Yeah, we were saying this time last week. Yeah. Even if Isak had a chance of playing, this was the Willa Osula game, and yeah, be interested to see what he brings, because when we signed him, when Newcastle signed him, and when we first saw him against Brest, we went, he's perfect for Newcastle. Yeah. But deputising from, like, if there's ever going to be a third choice behind Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson, he's perfect to come on, just be physical for 20 minutes. It's ideal. We just haven't really seen that. We saw the glimpse against Fulham, but he just didn't really get a sniff. Yeah. Alexander Isak didn't really in that game. No, to be fair. So, yeah. This is a good test for him, and then Miguel Almiron is another player I would expect to start as well. And Eddie Howe sort of waxed lyrical about Miguel Almiron, despite really using him sparingly so far this season. Said he's a really important player, great athlete, done so well for the club, just hasn't really had a sniff this season. With Jacob Murphy's just, I guess, a strong pre-season, a strong end to last season, and an okay start to this season has just made that right wing position his own when Eddie Howe's making the decision whether to play, if he's not playing Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon out there.
Yeah, he has, yeah. I think probably 12 months ago you would say Almiron was ahead of Jacob Murphy, whereas the tables have probably totally flipped from, would you say, probably March onwards, where Jacob Murphy seems to have been playing the right hand side. I think there was Almiron dropped way below his sort of levels last season. I think there's obviously always question marks from sections of the fan base over Almiron's ability and what he brings to the team. Obviously had that unbelievable run when they finished fourth, and was it 7 goals in 7 games or whatever, 6 goals, 6 games. But that was sort of like a purple patch for Almiron. But he always sort of gives you something. He does give you something. He gives that sort of hard work, relentless energy. But his impact in the final third, albeit, was probably always limited, apart from that month run when he had when they finished fourth. He always sort of struggled to contribute, and I think that really started to show last season. There was a lot of frustration around Almiron. Of course, the January, which he had the opportunity to leave. It hasn't quite been the same for him at Newcastle since then.
No, I'd say that's probably almost a turning point.
I think so as well. For the player himself, he probably knows he definitely knows the football club are open to letting him go, not just in January, but in the summer as well. And I think that's just naturally saw him drop below, like dropping the pecking order. You've seen like last season when it was, if Almiron was coming off and Murphy was coming on, Murphy comes off now and Almiron stays on the bench. So it shows how sort of far he's fallen down. But I think he gives you something, Almiron. We're seeing even in the Nottingham Forest game when, you know, that defensive work, sort of the just relentless amount of running. So you think against Wimbledon he would be able to make an impact, but sort of that being a Premier League level at the moment, it seems his opportunities are definitely limited, and I don't really see how he comes back into the team anytime soon.
Well, he's got a chance tomorrow night if he against League 2 Wimbledon, if he can show his worth. But I think just generally, I don't know about you, but the fan base in general, there's a frustration around Almiron that may sort of go into the club as well, where the deal was on the table for him to go to Saudi Arabia in January, and that would have gone a long way to solving Newcastle's PSR issue. Almiron wants to stay. Newcastle, I wouldn't say reluctant to keep him, but they were right. Okay, we'll keep Miguel Almiron, but then as soon as June strikes, it's panic stations. And I feel like had Newcastle sold Miguel Almiron in that January, that would have almost alleviated that issue. And I know every player's situation's different, and he's a contracted player to the club. Why should he leave if he's happy here? I know Alan St. Maximin came out and defended Miguel Almiron because he was subject to quite a bit of criticism on social media from supporters. So yeah, it's an interesting one with him, and whether the club now view him as, you've almost put us in this difficult situation, and now it's Jacob Murphy's long-term contract. He's a reliable player. He's above you in the pecking order.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly have any ill feeling towards Almiron for January. I think on reflection, it would be the deal.
Why should any player leave when he's contracted? But I think it certainly didn't help Newcastle in a PSR situation.
No, I think that's when it goes back to the Newcastle being good sellers, and they probably, on reflection, they definitely have to be more ruthless in certain situations. Even go back to the Kieran Trippier situation where in January you were probably the same as me, saying don't sell Kieran Trippier, but we were also totally unaware of Newcastle United having a essentially £60 million black hole in the account at the end of summer. So if you see the word to sell Kieran Trippier and you can't say, oh, we had to do that because we had this black hole at the end of the season, I think there would be a lot of understanding, or definitely understanding from fans, and that goes back to Almiron as well. But ultimately, the decision was left with Almiron. He decided to stay, and he's probably in a situation now where he's behind Jacob Murphy in the pecking order. He then got a front three of, when they're all fit, Isak, Barnes and Gordon, where probably Gordon's the second right winger. I keep doing this on videos.
It's a good job you didn't turn up and go blah, blah, blah.
That's karma for the video, because I was like, I can't go to Eddie Howe's press conference on Monday now. But
you manifested that.
I did. I thought completely lost my trail of thought.
Sorry.
No, it was just I don't know. I was talking about Almiron being down the pecking order. That's a point now when he's not playing, and Newcastle in many ways have probably lost the opportunity to sell him at the highest value they possibly could, because you look to sell him in January now, obviously his contract naturally runs down, and you've got a player there where he's not playing. So how can you then go and demand what they probably could have done, £20-25 million in January, because his stock was still relatively high, not too high. His stock was really high at the end of the Champions League season, when that right forward position has been the position that we've been saying they should strengthen for years, even on the back of Almiron's very, very good season. But they've kept a hold of him. His contract runs down. His value has decreased since then. And they've got a player who they'll probably get an okay sum for him, but certainly not the £20-25 million I spoke about there, when what they could have got maybe in January and definitely the summer before. It
just goes back to being, or needing to be, more ruthless, and he's one of those sellable assets that's depreciating in value. So moving on. Do you want to go over what team you think Eddie Howe should play?
It's hard, what team I think he should play?
The goalkeepers was another talking point Eddie Howe was asked about, because you've got a quote-unquote £20 million goalkeeper, Odysseus Vlachodimos, who is not getting a sniff.
No, he'll not play.
Martin Dubravka, who obviously played a role the second half of last season, is Newcastle's number one by number. He's historically played a lot of games for the club as well. Nick Pope, who's the first choice and played in the last round. John Ruddy even. Mark Gillespie. So it's an interesting one. I imagine Nick Pope would play, but I don't know about you. It's an opportunity for Eddie Howe to make changes.
I was convinced it would be Dubravka, but then there was something Eddie Howe said in the press conference about Wimbledon and being a big threat from set pieces. And that was something that made us actually think second about it. So I don't know. It's a tough one. How much do you rotate? He said he wants to take the competition seriously. So how much do you change that start 11? So I think the goalkeeper is an obvious one, because you've got 5 goalkeepers, so maybe it does make sense to rotate. But when you take Nick Pope out of that team, the options below him are significantly weaker. So it's a difficult one. I think I'm going to stick. I think he'll go with Dubravka, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Pope, because, as I say, he did make a point to mention Wimbledon's threat from set pieces and the height and physicality that they've got. So
that's true.
So possibly Pope, but I wouldn't. If it had to be on someone other than Pope, I'd go with Dubravka.
Yeah, it goes back to the sort of Willa Osula thing, where if Martin Dubravka doesn't play this game, when does he play? is he ever going to get a chance this season? And yeah, but Nick Pope, he's the man. I mean, he nearly wasn't the man when he passed it straight to OK Gundogan, but hopefully, fortunately, he made an even bigger mess of it, the Man City man. So yeah, Nick Pope, Dubravka. I'm not sure. I think you maybe convinced me that Dubravka could potentially come in, because when would he come in otherwise? I think right back's an interesting one though, or defensively in general, because Newcastle don't have a lot of options there, particularly if Kieran Trippier is unavailable, which seems touch and go at the moment. So, do you bring Tino in?
Yeah, Trippier's not going to play them, or is he?
No.
Who else? Oh, yeah. Could you?
Emil Kraft.
Emil Kraft will go centre half.
Yeah.
You imagine? It's hard to piece together a team. I'm going to go over the team that I think it could be, and then miss out the players that then we'll have a debate about. So when I wrote it out last night, this is what I do on my Sunday nights. I predict Newcastle United start 11.
No days off.
So I had Dubravka. It was Livramento right back, Kraft, and then I had Kelly at centre half alongside Kraft.
Yeah, I think Kelly will come in.
But then does Kelly go over to left back because there's no Matt Target, who I had penciled in? So confusion there. Midfield, this is not where there was another gap. So Longstaff and Willock, I think, absolutely nailed on at the start.
Yeah.
And then there was a third midfielder, because you've got obviously Bruno, Joelinton, Tonali, who said they'll make a decision on. I think if Tonali had went off a cramp against Man City, I maybe would have played him.
Yeah,
Tonali. But as I say, there's a space missing there in midfield, because probably Bruno gets a rest. Joelinton, I think it's between Joelinton or Tonali, but then I just said there Tonali's got cramps, so
see how he is today.
Yeah. So a gap in midfield there, and then the front three, Almiron, Osula. And then
wing's interesting.
The left wing was missing as well, and that's why if I had been at Eddie Howe, I asked Eddie Howe if he would have called up any of the under-21s. He wouldn't have confirmed that to us. I've got no doubt about it. But I just wonder if there's maybe scope to call up a Sanusi. I don't think there will be. But
very impressed in pre-season. Well enough. He showed he can do it at a senior level to some degree, in League 2 opposition. I mean, it's a bit of a baptism of fire for a young 17-year-old lad at St James's Park. But hey, you learn by doing.
So basically, I'll give you a predicted 11 there, and got then 3 players missing.
Right, I think if there's question marks over Tonali, I'd put Joelinton in the midfield with Longstaff and Willock, and hope that's good enough technically to get them over the line. Almiron would be on the right. Harvey Barnes still potentially.
He did, because he came off. He came off, and I would say Harvey Barnes probably didn't absorb as much energy as. And that's not a criticism of Harvey Barnes, by the way, but I'm just thinking of the players that he had next to him. Murphy's constantly getting chances down the right hand side. Gordon, we know, absolutely ran his socks off. Harvey Barnes came off in the 70th or 77th minute, so maybe he's a bit fresh on the others. So yeah, you would probably see him on the left hand side maybe, and then as I say, Osula, Almiron, the midfielders Longstaff, Willock, nailed on, I think. And then it's about the third man, Tonali or Joelinton or Bruno. I don't know. I'd be surprised if
Bruno ran his socks off, didn't he?
He was one of the ones. And then it's left back as well, or left sided centre half.
Yeah,
was another one, because Lloyd Kelly will play. Well, that'll be left back, or
I suspect Lloyd Kelly would play. Yeah. Lewis Hall, it would have been a shoe-in for him this time last year, but has risen.
Yeah.
Improved his game, was excellent against Man City. So yeah, that's a big decision for Eddie Howe. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do a predicted 11 on. They'll be on one of the shoes, because I want to try and do a predicted 11 on.
I don't predict them.
Yeah, but Joe Buck does.
That's Joe Buck's job.
We'll see what Joe Buck predicts.
I don't have my crystal ball. He does.
No, he did. So yeah, there's a couple of question marks over positions, but even the team that we've named there, even with 3 players missing, should probably should do enough to beat Wimbledon. But I'll say this as well, Newcastle United's last home game against a League 2 side at St James's Park. No, it wasn't even League 2, sorry. League 1 was Cambridge. So they've got some teams.
And they named a strong team that day.
They've named the strongest one they possibly could. Yeah.
Struggled. So, yeah, hopefully Newcastle can get over the line and set up that date with Chelsea in the last 16 next month. Or maybe by the time you watch this, it'll be later this month, because October tomorrow. So, yeah, we'll be at that game.
Yeah.
Not joined by Liam Kennedy, but he'll be watching from the East Stand.
Next to the East Stand.
Or next to the East Stand. Yeah. So we might be able to see him. Give him a wave, or he might be able to film us. He hinted he could give us a video review with him and his kids. So we'll look forward to that. Look forward to what they make of Wimbledon tomorrow. But me and Jordan will be there, and we'll look forward to hopefully a good game of football and a win for Newcastle United. So yeah, if you, of course, like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Bit of a different video today with a sort of press conference disrupted morning for you, Jordan. So
I'm all over the place.
We've retreated to your car. We've still got Shots TV to film, which check that out, 10:30 p.m. Monday nights on Shots channel 262 on Freeview. Of course, we've got Four Rivers Financial Planning, our lovely sponsors for all your holistic financial needs. And of course, as we've mentioned, Geordie Journos nominated for the Club Content Producer of the Year in the Premier League at the Football Content Awards. So we'll put the link in the description and the comments for you to vote for us there. Finals will be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on November 21st. So looking forward to that. And we'll see you at St James's Park, myself and Jordan, tomorrow.